Hello everybody, my name is Stratnos, and we have some midnight news and then also some live news. I'm going to put this so that the midnight news is up first, and then there will be some live news that is also maybe telling us something about midnight or related to midnight. And then we have some just live tuning and stuff at the end of this video, going into Turbo Boost and 11.2.5. So, first piece of news, we have a really cool thing where acquiring a class set 4 set now unlocks a character-specific feat of strength that will enable catalyst charges to drop from raid bosses, M+, bountiful delves, and rated PvP on that character for the remainder of the season. And the decision to spend catalyst charges can be difficult early in the season, as players anticipate looting more powerful armor in the same slot in the near future. For example, catalyzing a veteran or champion helm may feel like a mistake, knowing a hero helm could be around the corner in your next M+ dungeon, although viewers of this channel know that champion track and hero track are the same thing. But either way, the point still stands, right? Catalyzing even hero track, knowing that you could get myth track in that slot, does feel pretty bad. If you decide to spend the charge and receive the item, it may have to sit in their bags for up to 2 weeks before it can effectively be equipped. Sometimes even longer as well, right? Because sometimes you have another good use of your catalyst charge that you need to send even before that one. So yeah, you can be really, stuck on a piece for a long time. So this change should empower players to chase their seasonal class set bonuses early on, without reservation, with the knowledge that additional catalyst charges will likely be farmable for them just several weeks into the season. In addition, armor pieces with desirable secondaries in non-set slots, such as belts and boots, should feel like more viable options earlier in the season. Yeah, I mean, like, catalyzing those armor pieces is what they're saying, right? Like, you can actually catalyze belts and boots if those stats are good for you, without feeling like you're wasting... Even if you have a catalyst charge, if you're not getting one next week, it feels pretty sketchy to be using it, knowing that you might need it to be able to go... hero to myth track in a slot, or even veteran to champion track in a slot, right? And instead to send it on just making your existing champion track boots better stats. I think this is a great change. I think this is really good. It basically means that, like, collecting that 4 set early on is... You don't have to juggle any of, like, oh, should I delay this to try and preserve a catalyst charge into the future weeks? Delaying gratification... Even though it's the correct decision, it's not a fun thing to do, right? It doesn't feel good to be like, yeah, I should really wait on my set bonus until after we kill this boss or do our heroic clear so that I can be more efficient with my catalyst charges. So yeah, this is great. I'm a huge fan of this change. It's also a slight nerf in the power level of running splits like 2 through 5. Doesn't change too much for the guilds, the Race to World First guilds that are running infinite splits, and they get 4 set with a catalyst charge to spare, or 2 catalyst charges to spare on all of their mains pretty much for free. And it doesn't change much for guilds that are running just the 1 run, although it is still a buff there, but in particular, it makes those 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th runs less of a huge deal, right? Because, like, for my guild, for instance, in Manaforge Omega, we would have benefited quite a lot from having an extra run to get the extra tier pieces, and we would have saved a bunch of catalyst charges. Or if we had screwed over some characters and been like, yeah, you're probably not going to see play, you're not getting 4 set week 1. We didn't do much of that this tier. We probably were going to do that next tier, which would have sucked if you were one of the people that were like, yeah, you're probably on the bench, so you're probably not getting your set bonus, and it's not even to get somebody else their set bonus, it's to get somebody else a spare catalyst charge that they can hold on to for when they get that myth track piece down the line or need to shift stuff around. So, yeah, huge W here. We have another change coming to pet battles. They're changing the pet battle system. It's being iterated in Midnight. Changes are going to continue to come with future alpha builds, but they want to make sure that there are still pet collecting for players who love to collect pets, and for players who love to do pet battle content, that'll still be available. But as time has passed, we've seen fewer and fewer players enjoying this, so it's an area we want to iterate on. There will be some new pets in Midnight that are capable of battling. All parts of the pet battle system that were implemented in previous expansions should continue to operate as they have before. We're experimenting with some alternate methods to obtain pets in Midnight. We expect to iterate on that based on your feedback. Please let us know basically what your feedback is and what your experience level is when you're going to give them feedback on this system. I think this is another good direction to take it. I think that the collecting pets in particular when they have the tech, which isn't there yet, but they're working on, to have your pets hang out on your property, right? Either outside or inside your house. I think there's definitely a lot of people that are interested in like, oh, that's a cute, critter that's running around that zone. I would like to collect that. Or just completionists who are like, yeah, I would like to collect all the pets in the new expansion. But the amount of people who actually enjoy the gameplay of the pet battle system, I do know a few people for whom that's true. And I know more people who do it anyways because there's achievements behind it and they care about their achievement point number, and the pet battle tab taunts them, sitting there like the Green Goblin mask, calling them to queue up rated PvP pet battles to get 5,000 pet battles done. Absolutely despicable behavior, but people do it nevertheless. But I think that there are more people that would be interested in pets as a collection vector than necessarily as a battle thing. So moving into a world where a lot of pets are maybe collectible. Right now you can collect some pets by like buying them from rep vendors and stuff, but the other ones you basically all have to collect by battling, and changing that up so that there's other ways to do it, I think this is a good direction to go in. I'm curious to see what their iteration is though on the battles themselves. We've had a revert as well of the change to Transmog. So briefly, for they initially were planning on making it so that hero track gear was always just the one heroic appearance, and upgrading it to hero all the way up wasn't going to give you the mythic appearance. They're changing that back. So even though there's only one crest type per item track, they want the functionality still of getting the new upgraded look. So we don't know exactly how this crest thing is changing, but basically it seems like there's going to be like champion track with carved crests, and then you don't use ruined crests on champion track, and you use ruined crests on hero track, and you use gilded crests on myth track. Something like that is going to be coming in Midnight. And so there's no longer this point where it jumps into the eye level that hero track drops at, or maybe that ruined crests are used at some way like that. And so they were going to take away the appearance change as well, because that was sort of added by accident because of that functionality. But they are going to bring that functionality back with a clearer trigger, which is just you have to get it all the way to the top of the tier. So when an item's been fully upgraded to 6 out of 6 on its upgrade track, notably they say 6 out of 6 on its upgrade track, so maybe that also means that all of the tracks are going to be 6 slots rather than, say, champion track being 8, veteran track being 8, and the other ones upgrading to 8 when they do the turbo boost. I don't know. Either way, I think this is a good response to, I think being able to collect multiple pieces of Transmog for people that are interested. I think that if you really want the mythic Transmog and you do heroic enough for long enough in the season to get all the pieces, and then you get all the crests and you upgrade them, I don't have any problem with you getting the mythic Transmog. I think the people that are super gatekeeping that, like, I don't know, those people are just going to come back in a year and get it when they can for free anyways, so who cares? Let people earn their Transmogs. You're still going to get it way faster if you're mythic rating, so who cares? Okay, there's also now a list of retroactive achievements that are going to grant Decor. Some of this we already knew about. Some of the big meta achievements we knew were going to reward Decor, but also there's some other ones, just random old achievements here or there that are going to be giving random Decor. So, if you're interested in these different things, you can start going and collect them. I wouldn't be surprised if this massively expands the amount of, from just this list, but you could already start to look at this and be like, oh, which of these do I have? Which of these do I not have? This is the kind of thing where I wouldn't be surprised if an add-on or WeakAura, if somebody bothers to develop one of those still, comes out that gives you a checklist of the ones of these that you haven't completed. That sort of functionality would be pretty useful for anybody who's looking for something to do for the next few months to get their full Decor suite. And then we also have an upgrade coming to Legion Remix, where you're going to be able to get all difficulty variations when you purchase raid ensembles. So you just buy one raid ensemble and it gives you all the difficulty recolors, rather than having to buy all 4 of them separately. Pretty cool little change there. I'm pretty excited about this one. And also, this could be the kind of decision they would make if they've already internally decided that they might move away from the recolors and into dyes for Transmogs, because dyes are coming to housing recoloring, and I know that people would be really excited about them coming to most appearances in game. And I imagine that that's like a lot of technical work for Blizzard to do, and also it would require them, losing the ability to have recolors be a reward that people care about. But I'm just saying, this is the kind of note that you would make if you had already internally decided you were going to do that eventually. So, Copium, that could be on the way. All right, then our next set of changes are to Mythic Raid. They are doing some big nerfs to Nexus King and Dimensius. Now that Hall of Fame is closing, the patch is coming out, Turbo Boost coming out. So, Salhadar. Command Besiege activates 8 fractal images, was 9. These are the lasers in P1. This was already nerfed from 12 to 9, now down to 8. Big nerf to this, depending on which one it removes. There are some, if it's one of the close ones to where your raid is, that could be very big. And also the time between each activation increased to 1.57 seconds, was 1.375 seconds. So it gives you a little bit longer to kind of see the lasers coming, although this might actually mean that they go longer. So if you soak the later Conquer, maybe you're still actually going to be under attack here when you previously wouldn't have been. That might actually, I'm not sure how that's going to affect things. Conquer damage down, Vanquish damage down, Oathbreaker damage down. So the magic damage components of this, well, the Vanquish one hits the tank. The Conquer one hits the raid mostly. The physical damage component is unchanged. So the tank damage, especially on the tank that is solo tanking it, if that's still your strategy, is going way down. Oathbreaker's damage, or is not going down rather, is staying pretty much the same. Oathbreaker's damage is going down by 20%. So this is the pulse of damage when people clear their oath. So that's going to make stacking that's a huge reduction in the damage hit of the Conquer, because a lot of that damage is 19 people blasting your raid with Oathbreaker. Behead damage down by 10%. This is if you get hit by the laser, I think, the Command Besiege lasers. Voidwing melee damage reduced by 10%. Okay, that should mostly just affect the tank, I guess, a little bit. Galactic Smash and Star Shattered damage are going down as well, so a little bit of P3 nerfs too. Pretty sizable nerfs to the lethality of Salhadar. I'm surprised to not see some health nerfs here, but I guess that the health is going to get more nerfed by Turbo Boost than the lethality will, as our damage goes up more than our effective health per point of item level by quite a lot, so maybe they're thinking that that's going to do all the nerfing that any guild that's currently working on this might need in terms of making a DPS check more feasible. Dimensius, on the other hand, getting some massive ones. So Massive Smash, massive nerf, is going down by 20% to the raid-wide damage. Shattered Space, also 20%. That's when he makes the antimatter zones. Living Mass health down by 10%, and you have to kill them all within 10 seconds of the first rather than 8, so way easier killing those ads. Massive reduction in the value of ad-killing specialists like Destruction Warlocks, which you still need 2 of for the gateways in that phase. Elemental Shamans, which you definitely, now it's going to hurt a lot less to field 0 of those, for instance. Umbral Gates grant Soaring Reshi for 11 seconds, was 10, so if you were struggling to do the flight path that I do on that fight, it's now way easier. 11 seconds, night and day. That was a flight path where, doing it perfectly, you could do it with 0.7 to spare. Doing it okay, you'd do it with 0.2 to spare. And then doing it slightly badly, you'd be 0.3 late and you'd die. And now you'll have 0.7 to spare if you do it slightly badly. And you'll have a bunch of wiggle room there, so... it's actually still going to be... if you reach it for the first time, I bet people are still going to, take a couple of pulls to learn it. But once you've learned it, you should no longer wipe to it, which was still possible with the 10-second version, if you took exactly that flight path that I take at the start. And then I guess also the 2 up behind the left asteroid are now also a lot safer. Artosian and Pargoth health down by 5%, so it'll be a lot easier to make those pushes on those platforms, although that does mean the damage stop in both of those phases is going to be even more stoppy. Artosian and Pargoth are going to hit your tank less hard, although a lot of their tank damage comes from the dot that they inflict anyways, so not as much as a nerf as it may look. Void Warden down by 10, and Nullbinder 20% health reduction, so way less chances of failing to kill the ads before the casts go off, before stuff gets bad, And also just like the fact that Artosian and Pargoth are losing health as well here means if you decide to just nuke the ads and then swap to the mini boss, you're going to be just fine in a way that you previously didn't have that much flexibility to do that. Obviously, you know, compared to the Race to World first kills and then the next couple of weeks kills, every week you get more flexibility to do that. But guilds that are reaching this boss will find that that is no longer like the hard part of P2 is a lot less about optimizing that damage and meeting that check and, you know, successfully doing exactly the right amount of AoE damage and not too much and not too little. Now, if you're doing too little, it shouldn't be too hard to increase it. And if you're doing too much, it should be fine because Artosian and Pargoth have less health as well. No binding cast time down to 5 or up to 5 from 4 seconds, so a lot less likely to get randomly have one of those casts go off. A lot more flexibility on when you cast that first stun, and also an extra second for the death grips to figure themselves out before you end up getting into trouble as well. Star Shards are more generous about detecting players below them. There's a couple spots on Pargoth's platform where you could accidentally have a Star Shard sail over you, so that goes away now. And then P3 is only getting 1 nerf here, a 10% reduction in the ticking cosmic radiation damage. I'm a little sad to not see something here that is aimed at reducing the impact of damage stops on this encounter. In fact, health nerfs to the mini bosses are going to make it even worse of sitting there stopping damage, not just for farm, but also for progression. It's by far, you know, the best way to kill this boss in the fewest pulls possible is to make sure you're going into P3 with every single cooldown under the sun ready. I guess maybe now you can hold more of them and just like never press them on Pargoth and then never stop on either Artosian or Pargoth somehow. But, you know, if you're pressing your 3 minutes at the start of Artosian, you have to do the damage stops on both Artosian and Pargoth regardless. So yeah, a little sad to see that, or maybe a compensation health nerf to P3 to sort of compensate for this nerf, making it so that you would push earlier and have less damage in P3. Not a big deal. I think P3 is a really fun phase, so I don't mind it being... I don't mind that phase going unnerfed as well, beyond, like, in this note. They already did some fairly sizable nerfs to it as well the last time they touched this boss, so... yeah, fair enough. Good set of changes all around. Sad about the prevalence of damage stops during farm on Dimensius, and I think these changes will further cement damage stops for progression guilds working on this, which is going to make the experience of progressing this a lot less fun than for guilds that didn't have to damage stop because we were progressing it earlier, so that is a bit of a shame. And then finally, we have some class tuning here. 3% nerfs to Frost, DK, Arcane Mage, and then we also are having nerfs to BM and MM, but only to Dark Ranger. I think to MM, targeting just Dark Ranger makes perfect sense. For BM, I'm a little skeptical here because I think Pack Leader is actually really close, and I think the BM probably needed a little bit of a like an aura nerf rather than a Black Arrow, Bleak Powder targeted nerf. But I am stealing that opinion from smarter Hunter players in my guild, so I'm not 100% sure on that, but we'll see if this just makes Pack Leader the new meta, because of course Black Arrow and Bleak Powder are a large chunk of the damage that Dark Ranger does provide, is sourced from these two effects. And then in addition to those DPS, so those are kind of the top 4 DPS specs on like Warcraft logs right now. All are getting tapped down a little bit. Not getting any buffs to the bottom of the tree, which makes me kind of think that maybe Blizzard are just sort of, you know, they're doing a light touch to the top of the charts for Raid. They're not really looking to change too much for M+. But one thing they are doing is they are making Atonement. They're basically nerfing Disc. Actually, okay, so net, they're bringing Atonement healing up by 15%, but then they're making it be increased only by 75% outside of Raids was 100. Depending on the order of operations here and whether these are additive or multiplicative with each other, this could actually be a nerf or a buff outside of Raid. And it's just a straight up buff inside of Raid, which is very warranted. That spec definitely needed to do more healing in Raid, so that's good. And my guess is these roughly cancel out outside of Raid, but yeah, again, depending on the exact way that math works, could be a lot of different things. And then we had a bug fix that's going to be a slight buff here to Fatebound Rogue. Anyways, there's a ready check. I'm getting summoned to my alt raid, so gotta go do that. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.